This is Gemara Yevamos, Daf Mem Aleph, for the Daf of 4, the second day of Pesach. Apologies for the lateness of this year. The learning of today's year should bring an incredible Schosila Neshama for Rav Eliezer Moshe ben Shema, dedicated by his family on the occasion of his yahrzeit, which was today. Today, on the second day of Pesach, the 50th yahrzeit. Mirat Hashem, the learning of the entire Chabura should bring Rav Eliezer Moshe ben Shema to an higher place in Gan Eden Shalmaila, especially the Schosat Torah on the limud of the day of his yahrzeit, as well as learning should bring his choshev v'zochaim and devara tamerziva bas paralrachol shalom lebizava ovik ben tali shem el chaya plumudis bas asima malka, as well as those learning should be his choshev v'zochaim v'shloyes ben yevedish mom entil nafsazim v'chlas nachom v'asviva sarablu bas mindel chaim Moshe Yeshua ben Malka b'ashav avego shirchana b'say sha'ar chayli Yisrael. We're holding on mem amin base. We're about 7 lines at the bottom at the 2 dots, in which the Gemara says mutter adam, quoting the Mishnah, which the Mishnah says that you're a mutter to the kararov, the relative of the tzara of the chalutza, but you're aser to the tzara of the kararov of your chalutza. Says the Gemara, Amar Tubi Bar Kisna, Amar Shmuel Abal Tzaras Chalutza, Tzaras Chalutza, which is that which was the Mishnah said was aser. So someone is ball on the tzaras chalutza, the co-wife of his chalutza, havlan mamzer. My timer says the Gemara b'isur kaima. Very similar, because it's iser, it is aser between this man and the tzara, the co-wife of the chalutza. Amar Rav Yosef comes along. Rav Yosef says, "Avanami tanina." We learned this in our Mishnah. What did the Mishnah say? Motor adam ekrevasaras chalutza sai. That you're allowed in the karoiv of the tzara of the chalutza. So if you're going to tell me that tzara is on the outside, quote unquote, it's not included in the marriage. Therefore, mutar b'achayis, your sister is allowed. Aliyah mitzara kechalutza. If you're going to tell me that the co-wife has the same status as the chalutza damya, amai mutar. So why should it be mutar? So says the Gemara, that's our raya, that which we just said, that b'yisura kaima, that since you cannot do yibam, there is an isser there. So says the Gemara, why don't we suggest that the Mishnah is a raya, a kasha, not like Rabbi Yechanan? Damar beinu beinachin chayav lo chalutzasai kares lo tzarasa kares. Says Rabbi Yechanan, neither he, the one that did chalitza, nor the brothers, ein chayavim al chalutzasai kares. They're not obligated on the chalutza kares or the tzara kares. So says the Gemara, this is seemingly not like our Mishnah. Our Mishnah said it's aser. Our Mishnah said it's chayiv. In such a scenario, Rabbi Yechanan, says Rabbi Yechanan, v'tizbra. Really, is what you're saying logical? Is it misvara? Achais chalutzasai da'araisa. Are you telling me that the achais, that the sister of a chalutza, you're suggesting me to din da'araisa? How could that be? V'amrei shlokish kan shana Rebbe, here Rebbe taught. What did Rebbe teach? Achas gerusha midivrei Torah. Achas chalutza midivrei seifrim. Rebbe thought that when it comes to achais gerusha, that's the raisa. But achais chalutza, said Rebbe explicitly, it's midivrei seifrim, it's the rabbanan. So how are you suggesting that it's the raisa? So says the Gemara, I don't understand. What's the difference between the two cases? As we turn over to today's daf, and Aleph explains the Gemara as we get to the Mishnah. What does this mean? Look at the top Rashi. Chalitza, a bit of a traumatic process for a woman to go through. So when she goes through chalitza, what does she do? She brings her sister with her. So no one knows. They see 2 women going to the Bezdin, and therefore because they suffer the Rachel Chalutz. Some say it was his sister, and that's why the sister is Aser. V'chinas of Saras Chalachol. Hainu Saras Krevis Chalutzasa, Amri Saras Chalutzasai. Nasiv, Denu Savish Rachel, but Saras Anasheach Avari. Havei Shari Chalutz Rachel. But cause the confusion, cause the woman brings her sister to be involved in such a story, such a process of chalitza. Therefore, we have to be more chomer on the sister, as those might think that she was the one that got a chalitza. But says the Gemara, Whereas whereas it comes to the tzara, you don't bring your tzara, you don't bring the co-wife to do chalitza. Says the Mishnah, as we continue, and if someone marries a Yevamos, excuse me, so there's chalitza to Yevamos, and then his brother marries the chalutza's sister. And then he dies, and now we have this chalutza sister awaiting yibum. Omeis chalet says lo mizabem, you can't do yibum. V'chein, and similarly, I'm a garish as ishtay v'nos as v'chayis. If someone divorces his wife and his brother marries the sister, omeis harei ze petura. There's no yibum, no chalitza, it's completely exempt. And we'll just point out what the Gemara is about to say in a moment. What's the v'chein? It's not the same case. The first case said chalet says v'loy misyabemes, and the second case says arizaptura. You don't have to say anything. The Gemara will get there in one moment. Continues the Mishnah. Shemeres yavam, one who's awaiting yibum in that zika process, that mid-stage process, they wait to see what the brother will do. Shekidish achav zachoysen, and the brother did kiddushin. The first stage of marriage to the system. Shemavidim miseira amru amrin loy hadin asher. So wait, don't consummate the marriage until the brother does something. Then you could marry the wife. If the Yavam dies, then you'll never know. So you have to give one get and one chalitza. 1 second. Sorry about that. It says the Gemara. The Kashta already pointed out, my v'chein. What's the v'chein in the Mishnah? Explains the Gemara, you're right. Im aval hamagarish. Interesting that we go from v'chein and zotu to aval, the exact opposite. But says the Gemara, the Mishnah means to contrast gerushin with chalutza. Amar Reish Lakish, and here says Reish Lakish, kanchan Rabbi Achois gerusha midavrei Torah. Which of course, if it's a different Torah, if it's a midaraisa dikadin, it's a complete exemption. And that's why the Mishnah says, by the case of Achois gerusha, it's petura. It's completely exempt. Whereas Achois chalutza is different sefer, therefore you need to do the chalitza to act on the zika, on the connection midirabanan. Shemeres yavam shakidish, we have a shemeres yavam that does kiddushin. Amar Shmuel halach Rav Yudim and Beseira. The halacha is like Rav Yudim and Beseira, which we'll see in a moment exactly what this means. Ibailu, they asked a shaylo. Meisa ishtoi ma'u b'yevintoi. What is the story if the Yevamos sister dies as she's awaiting Yivam? What is the halacha with regard to the Yevama? Can you get married or not? So Rav Chanina Meisa ishtoi mutar b'yevintoi. That the sister dies, now you're allowed to marry the Yevama. Shmuel Rav Yezder Meisa ishtoi, no. Aser b'yevintoi, it's aser la'ilam v'ayid. So Amar Rava comes along Rava and says, my time with your Rav, where did Rav get this interesting din? Where did Rav get the din that the Gemara just quoted? That Rav and Rav Bibi taught us that Meisa Ishta is mutter v'yevimtai. Where does Rav come from? Explains the Gemara, Mishanavi Yevama Sha'otra v'nesra v'chazra v'otra. Yibam is a scenario that originally the woman in the world is mutter. But then Asar Nesra, when they got married into the families in Isser Erva, Chayzer v'otra becomes back to Heter once a mayor of his head. Says the Gemara, Tachzla Teir L'Risha, and it goes back to original Heter. So Masiv Rav Amnuna Gimlachem Yom Nesuin Mizachayos. 3 brothers married to 3 sisters, 2 of them being sisters. V'echan Mofna, and 1 is unrelated. Mufanes Maimer. 1 of the wives of the sisters die, and therefore leaving over the Maimer to the 3rd brother. Then he dies. Then his wife dies. After him, Oisa Yevama. Chaylet says v'loy misabemes, says we have a bit of a connection over here. You have to chalitza, and you're not allowed to act on the yibum. So ask the Gemara, v'amai. We know a klal, asked the Gemara, seemingly that any time you have such a scenario that you have an isser, you have a heter, when the heter comes back the same parameters and guidelines as originally tachzer latira harishayin. So Ishtigi was quiet. Why did you not respond to Rav Elazar? that says what? The Amar Kivisham Dav Shachas Be'Isr, Nasr Alav Eilam Isr. Of course, we're about to touch upon the sugya in which we had already, the sugya of Zika. So it says the Gemara of Lazarus of the opinion that once there's one moment of time which we're going to, zoom in a little bit more, but it says Rav Elazar, once there's a moment of time of Isser, that Isser never disappears. Hadra Amar, then he retracted and he said, Amar Dam Rav Elazar Acha, Heichad lo Chazya b'shas nefilo, only if the Nachazi to do Hibam. Aval Heichad lo Chazya b'shas nefilo mi Amar. Hadar Amar, he went back and he said, yes, it's indeed correct. Vatani Rav Elazar, I'm Ramesi Yevimtai, Motor Beishtai, Mesa Ishtai, Oisi Yavam Chalatzam Sebemes. So says the Gemara, Leima Shmuel, Verav Asi, Damri Rav Elazar, flipping the tables. Maybe they're going within the sheet of Rav Elazar. If you didn't Rabbanan, no, they can even agree with the sheet of the Rabbanan. I can't look Kamefliki Rabbanan Alei Rav Elazar. Till now, we have not found such a machlokes. So says no, even the Rabbanan would be moida in this case. Why? The Isar, because says the Gemara, Mishan the Nefila ve'elach, from the moment that they fell to Yibam, it's a different story. And we continue with the Mishnah on the bottom of the Aleph, and Aleph says the Mishnah Yevamos. Well, halacha that we've had many times, now we see it in the proper form. Says the Gemara, when it comes to a Yevama, you're not allowed to do Yibam, which of course we understand. As we've spoken extensively, you have to wait 3 months because maybe this mommy will give birth. And he won't know, is it a Bantisha Larisha, Ben Sheva Lashini, is a 9-month-old baby to the first husband, is a 7-month baby to the second husband, and therefore, whenever there's a change, what do you have to do? You have to wait 3 months. V'chein and similarly, Kol Shar Nashim Lo Yisarsu, you're not allowed to do even Erisin, Lo Yinasu Achi Rosh Chadashim, till there is a full 3 months. Echab Sulois, Echab Ulois, Achaz Gerushais, V'achas Almanois, Achad. Excuse me, Achar Amanois, Echad Nesuis, Echad Arusois, Ravida Amar Nesuis, he's Arsu Arusi, Yinasu, Chotzman Arus Shebi Yehuda, and they shall leave by Gaspa. Besides the Gemara, but in Yehuda, all bets are off, because we know in Yehuda they allow them to have Yichud, the Chasan, and the Kal, and therefore we're always concerned that maybe because of that Kula to have Yichud, they bore other fruits, maybe it caused them to unfortunately have illicit relations before they're married, and that's always the concern. Comes the Ravasi, and Ravasi says, Kol Anashim Yisarsu, Chotz Min Almana. All the women do Erisin aside from the Almana. Why? As we turn over to Mem Alva Beis Mimnei Evil. Because Vavelos, her husband just died, and therefore that's the only case in which they're not going to do. That's the only case that they're not going to do because of the Avilas. And Arash just points out that what does it mean? Yisarsu kol anoshim lav lemuti arusli nasli doesn't curve you this year later. Gabi Avchana Rav Yisi Mekel's famous Rav Yudu Amar Mishalin Nami Harvach that we've seen already a big machloikas how Mekel could we go with regard to this din. Now says the Gemara Bishlama lotis yabim. Shemi Avlad ben Kayama. Says the Gemara, okay, let's take things in order. I understand you're not to do Yibo, because what's going to happen? Again, her first husband died, and now we're not sure, is she pregnant? So says the Gemara, I understand you're not going to let her do Yibo Moy Namashom. Shemi Avlad ben Kayama. Maybe she's pregnant. Maybe the baby inside of her is a viable child. And therefore, what's the result? As we've spoken about many times, you're playing with fire. And such a scenario could evolve into an Isra Da'araisa. Eloi asked the Gemara, Amai, what's the reason why you're not allowed to do Chalitza? Maybe it's like Kasha on Rav Yochanan, Rav Yudah, who said that Chalitza Mubaris is a Mechitza. And we see clearly that the Chalitza Mubaris is not a chalitza. Says the Gemara, Lami Yosivna, Rav Yochanan, did we not already answer up Rav Yochanan? Chada Zimna, already answered up Rav Yochanan. So says the Gemara, that's going to be the din in our Mishnah. So I asked the Gemara, Vaitar, Lema. So we try to say that's a Tiyufta and Rav Yehuda. That didn't work. So says the Gemara, Lema, Miyanami, Daviti Yofta. Lo Yocha, in the time you know the reason is Shema Yevelad ben Kayama concept that we've seen. We all know, well, we'll know right now, that chalutza is also to a kayin, but almana is not. So if this woman, who's misafik, we just don't know if she's pregnant or not, if we require a get, we're afraid, or require a chalitza, I should say, we're afraid that the people are going to hear, and then really what? She had a child originally, really she was pregnant from the first husband, and now the second marriage is nothing, but really you're causing a terrible isser. Says Gemara, v'nischa dilma ikal davi b'chalitza v'lavi b'achraza. So says the Gemara, what's the big deal? Just make a big announcement. Everyone should know that this woman's not really a chalutza, she's allowed to marry a kayin. Says the Gemara, as we see very classically, the fix like this is not going to work. That the cross, what's the cross? They're going to make an announcement, but maybe someone will only hear the original one, and they're not going to hear the announcement, and it's going to cause them to be pirish from her. They're not going to allow her to marry into kuna by mistake, of course, because Almana is mutter likuna, and that's the reason. Mefsel is min hakuna, and that's the concern. Says the Gemara, great, Deinach Almana, but Grusha Michael and Meimer. What if she was previously divorced? She was a previously divorced woman anyway, she's also to a kayin. So we don't have to be concerned that maybe a kayin will hear. We have to make a second announcement. Explains the Gemara, Misham, the Mafsala Mezainais. You know why? Because she's going to lose out on her Mezainais, on her support. Teinach explains the Gemara, Nisua. Okay, Nisua, a woman who consummates her marriage, she gets supported by her deceased husband's estate. So I understand that we're nervous that she's going to lose her inheritance. But Arusa Grusha Michael Meimer, what about an Arusa who's a Grusha? What are you going to say in that case? Elamisham explains the Gemara. The Rav Yosi must be because of Rav Yosi. Who's Rav Yosi? Titania Maisabadim Vechajabal of Rav Yosi Amrlei Ma'ulach Gimel. So it came from Rav Yosi and asked him, our Shaila, what's the halacha to do chalitza within 3 months? Which of course is a difficult thing to grasp. What's the problem with chalitza? Which the Gemara just said, okay, maybe about kahuna, you have to make an announcement, but ostensibly, there's no issue. So Amar Lei Loi Tachlitz. Ask the Gemara, I don't understand what we just said. Who cares? Let's do chalitza. Kara Allah Mikra Zeh, says the Gemara, you know why? We see that any time it's two sides of one coin. You need to have a potential to have Yibam to allow chalitza. So im lo yachboitz. What do we see? That if you do desire Yibam, you have to have potential to Yibam. From here we learn the kal kol Yibam the chalitza. It's not Yibam. It's not chalitza. So Masiv Rav China Sveikais Chayletz. Let me say a bemis. A woman who's unsure, what's the halacha? She has to chalitza and ayiba. My sfeika says more. What's this suffix that you're discussing? Ilema suffix kedushi. Not sure if she was married. So what's the big deal? Just do yibam. Because whichever way you look at it, if she was married, it's a yibam. If she's not married, then this was a regular marriage, and there's no issue at all. Elalav explains the Gemara, suffix shekidish achas v'shtei achayos. He does not know which sister he married. Ve'eni idea is v'em kidish v'katani chayletzes. See that you need chalitza even in such a case. But explains the Gemara, chiyashta no. Also maybe of Eliyahu of such a fundamental idea. If Eliyahu and Navi would come v'yomer da kidish bas chalutza v'yibimi, then you'd have to yibam. But you're going to tell me, let's go, as they call klapi shmaya galia. Let's see, what would Eliyahu Navi says? So says the Gemara, in that case, perhaps, on our case, what's Eliyahu Navi going to say? That she's not pregnant, she isn't pregnant. We're going to listen to even Eliyahu Navi. Says the Gemara of Yavinon Law, so let's do Yibam. Hakatani Lasvar, Bas Iburei. Okay, it's a Katana that can't give birth. We always have to wait the 3 months. We'll pick it up in the Tanur Rabbanan.